our Senator Scott Fitzgerald and our representatives John Jackler and Mark Bourne. Depending on where you live in the town of Lowell, Mark and John are kind of evenly divided amongst the township. I'm Susan Kane, I'm the clerk. Thank you for voting for me this last 2 weeks ago at the election. And I just want to welcome you to the town of Lowell, and I'm going to turn it over to Scott.
Thank you. I think this is actually, I think all of us kind of reached out across the district to just announce this set of hours, but I think both the reps, I know, are doing some additional ones throughout the district, but this is a good turnout. This is great. This is wonderful. So really appreciate it. So like I announced before, if you weren't sitting here, Kimber from my office is here. We've got kind of hearing slips, and I think what we'll do is we'll just kind of roll through these, and if you could kind of just make your comments specific, and we'll try and stay away from redundant as we get through it, and we'll see how many people we can get through here. So, but we really appreciate you coming out today. I think we're probably we all have a pretty wide scope of knowledge on the stuff that's going on at the state level, but I'm sure some of you have probably attended either Congressman Sensenbrenner's, or I'm not sure, I haven't looked at the list, if I think some of the people even maybe as far as Representative Bocane's district, but we can do follow-up with those congressional offices as well, obviously the 2 U.S. senators, if there's something that falls more on the federal side. But so we'll just get going here, and we'll see where we end up. So Rosemary, is it Garzinski?
Yes.
Beaverdam.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. What can we do for you?
Okay.
If you want to stand up, if you feel more comfortable with that, that'd be fine.
I don't care. People
Yeah,
wanna
just so
hear
people
me.
can hear you. Yeah.
My question to you, and I want an answer. Are the Wisconsin taxpayers putting the entire bill for the infrastructure upgrades in the Pleasant Prairie area, or has Foxconn already kicked in money? And if they have already kicked in money, what percentage have they kicked in? And then my second question is regarding medical marijuana. Nygren said that it shouldn't be in the budget, it should be its own bill. But back when Walker did the collective bargaining, it was part of his budget. And all the Republicans there applauded that. Those are my 2 comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Foxconn, my general take still on the project is when Governor Walker's Secretary of the Department of Administration at the time, Scott Neitzel, who worked with the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation to kind of go back and forth on that contract. The one thing that the legislature was adamant about was to make sure that any of the tax credit money that went out the door, one way of describing it, I guess, that would not happen unless it was linked directly to the job creation. And the job creation doesn't come unless you've got, obviously, the build out of the original plans that they had. And if there is any place right now that maybe there's a little bit of vulnerability, it is at the local level. So those municipalities have made some upgrades to infrastructure. I would say the upgrades, even in infrastructure, have been not so significant that they wouldn't be welcomed anyways. A lot of it deals with local roads and underground water and sewer.
So the state right now, taxpayers are not involved in what's going on down there financially?
Well, the tax credits are on the table, and if Foxconn wants the tax credits, they have to continue to live up to the goals that were originally set in that contract that was negotiated with Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. Just this week, there was a little bit of news, kind of some back and forth. It sounded like Governor Evers was, and it doesn't make much sense to me, and I kind of said that publicly, he believes that the scope of the project is changing. That, some of the original product that they thought they would be manufacturing there, they're changing it. But, in my opinion, it's just like any other corporation. You might manufacture one type of product on Monday and some other product on Friday, and that's what they're going through. They're trying to figure out exactly what's the ideal product that they want to manufacture in that part of the state. But I'm very optimistic that the 13,000 jobs ultimately will be created. We have a difficult environment right now when it comes to labor. Very tight. But, you know, I've been around long enough to remember '08 when we had just the opposite problem, you know. No jobs, and people, and the unemployment rate was obviously much higher than it is right now. So I still feel real optimistic that the entire Foxconn project will ultimately, and it's a new type of industry, something that, you know, we've relied so heavily right now on tourism and on farming and on, for the most part, light manufacturing throughout the state. Those are our big three. And yet, you know, everybody knows, and especially if you're farming right now, especially if you're dairy, that's, you know, it's been in a slump for a while now. So we need to continue to kind of think that way and make sure that our young people that are getting these great educations at the UW system continue to stay in Wisconsin. And this is the type of sector, the IT sector and the manufacturing related to it, that I think makes sense and ultimately will, I'm hopeful that this entire thing really takes off. So, medical marijuana, anyone else can.
Well, I mean, as far as it being in the budget, I agree with Representative Nygren, and Mark is on the Joint Finance Committee. That is a policy issue that should be taken out of the budget and negotiated, talked about, and legislated on its own.
Yeah, I agree too that it would come out of the budget, but it's something that a lot of us want to work on. It's something I talked about on the campaign trail 6 months ago, or whatever long it's been now, 7, 8 months ago. And so there's interest in working on, from a legislative perspective, just not in the budget. And the only thing I would add is I certainly agree with everything the senator said about Foxconn, and he's been a lot more involved in that than some of us. But we do have the state road project there on the interstate system, where there's state money, but of course that's redoing an entire interstate system that's been going on for, well, more than a decade now, where we've done different interchanges at Zoo interchange and Market interchange, and this north-south leg, which I drove through yesterday and is a mess, by the way, so if you can avoid it, I would recommend it. But it's just part of that work. They're east-west remaining, you know, so that's not, it's in the area where the development's going on, but that's the whole system that we've been working on, and I think certainly a lot of folks have talked about the importance of investing in our roads, and I know I've seen Commissioner Fields, and I'm not sure if we should have noticed a highway commission meeting here today, or how many of them are here, but there's we'll probably hear about roads more later, but I would just add that important investment in our interstate system.
Okay, thank you. Tim Sprecher, is it Sprecher? Hey, Tim.
Yeah.
Lake Mills.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
I'm just here to observe. I'm glad
Okay.
to meet all of you. I see your faces, I get your information, so I just wanted to be here to hear the comments. And
Thank you.
thank you for holding.
Thank you very much for coming. Gene from Watertown.
Hey there, how are you?
Good.
Welcome. First of all, I'm thankful that 2 clubs are shut down,
Right.
and I'm the chairman of the Dodge County Christian Leaders Coalition, and believe it or not, a week from this Sunday, we'll be doing a concert at the Final Club.
I see that.
Inside, not outside. And I want to thank you guys for being such great advocates for decency. Sometimes you don't hear that enough. My 3 concerns, one is that we do more to stop abortion. I saw the movie Unplanned, shocking to see the abortion industry and how it's monetized, using taxpayers' money for Planned Parenthood and others. I would advocate with a conservative legislature to defund Planned Parenthood. And I think the movie, if you haven't seen it, go and watch it, but it's very, very succinct on what Planned Parenthood's motives are and the numerical part of abortion. It's a Holocaust. We're at 54 million children. Probably legislatures have been aborted, maybe a president. And some of our best citizens died before getting able to be born. So with the conservative legislature, do all you can to stand for life. I am working with Christian music artists to put out a whole album called Stand for Life. We've made this year a year of advocating to stand for life. And so please try to support Standing for Life however you can. Yeah, you'll be opposed. Yeah, the thought is a woman has a right to choose. Well, thankfully my mom chose to have me have a right to live.
Right.
And the second thing is on marijuana. I went to St. Joe's house at Beaver Dam Country Club, a home that helps people with addictions. Marijuana is without a doubt a gateway drug. Crime in California and Colorado have risen exponentially by having recreational marijuana. I want to urge our legislators to absolutely shut down any thought of legalizing recreational marijuana, any even thought of it. We have an opiate problem out of the roof in Dodge and Jefferson County. And statistically, the gateway drug part of marijuana is statistically very high, that it opens the door to other drug usage. And whatever you can do, Ever's goal is to make it legal. Nobody that deals with addicts would ever support that. And I deal with them constantly because I'm working on starting a homeless shelter in Watertown. And we deal with drug and alcohol addicts every week, and marijuana is almost always the beginning drug of starting out towards drug addiction and dependency. So please stand your ground against Ever's, not only what I would call recreational marijuana, medical marijuana. There's a lot of thought on the pros and cons of that, but I just want to say Ever's plan is to use certain steps of legalizing this and that to ultimately have recreational marijuana. And I would say no to any more drug allowance of more drug this, more drug that, especially with marijuana, you know, I can't see going to Lambeau Field and smelling dope. I can't see walking by and State Street and smelling a cloud of dope like they now smell in DC, because they have in DC legal marijuana. It's absurd that we would even have to debate the merits of that. But please stand your ground. Know that you have the support of the conservative leadership in Wisconsin to stand against this stupidity. Amen? And then the third thing is sex trafficking. Just want to say that by leaders standing against perversion, leaders coming to rallies that you guys have come to, has curbed what would have been a disaster in Dodge County. Had these clubs been able to proliferate, we happened to do a bake sale one day in front of the hardware store, and in 2 hours' time, 12 girls came to that club, and without a doubt were being pimped. Thankfully, Sheriff Schmidt did a surprise inspection and caught people in the act of this. But you know what? It takes legislatures like you guys. Sometimes you don't realize how powerful a position it is to say we want a decent town.
Right.
Amen? And I just want to let you know, thank you for coming to the rallies. Pray for the concert. Our goal is to see the Solomon Club repurposed to become a multi-events or performing arts center, and something other than a club. And there's 2 strip club owners waiting for that building to be in some form of financial crisis so they can get their feet in the door. We will do all we can to say not in our town. And so I just want to say a big thank you from our coalition, the Clyman, the Dodge County, Juneau 1, Watertown. Everybody wants to say you guys have been doing a great job. Thank you.
Very good.
Thanks, Reverend Gene. Thank you very much. I'll just tell you, I think if you walked down State Street this afternoon, you might smell some marijuana, though. I'm just telling you. There's a good chance.
I believe it.
No, thank you very much. I know, you know, a lot of contacts from people in the district as those clubs closed, and you know, we'll see. We know there's a couple of investigations that continue, and they seem to be statewide. But you know, the way they operate, the way the FBI operates, you know, you're not going to really know until after it happens, but we know there's still a lot of activity that's going on, so. But thank you for your work, really appreciate it. Luke Hartman from Beaver Dam. Luke,
Right.
there you are. Luke, do you have a comment or questions?
Yes, I do.
All right, floor is yours.
Why is it that Evers brought the guard back up here from the border?
My opinion, political, kind of an affront to President Trump, and, feeds into the whole narrative about the president wanting to gain control of what's going on in the southern border. And, to some extent, he did, I think he did take a little heat. A lot of those men and women that in uniform that were serving down there ended up being honored in the Assembly chamber a couple weeks ago, and I think rightfully so. I think a lot of us were disappointed in the governor's decision, though.
Yeah, we gave them a hometown hero award. There were dozens of men and women who were down on the border that came back, and if you talk to them, they felt their job was important. They were proud of what they were doing.
Well, right, there's your drugs, there's your human trafficking.
Oh, yeah.
And they were solely responsible for stopping a lot of it. And if you talk to the units that were down there from Arizona and from the states where they were, they very much appreciated the work that our folks from Wisconsin did.
Very good. Thank you for coming, sir.
That's
We appreciate it. Is it Sue Stale?
Steel.
Brownsville? Yeah, Sue, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I met with Mark Bourne in Mayville,
Yep.
and we discussed some things, and I'm just wondering, what are you gonna do about the, protecting our students online at school? Because of the FERPA, Federal Education Privacy, Rights and Privacy Act. Anybody has access, it's loopholes, anybody has access to the children's information. They even require a biometric record of fingerprints, retina, iris patterns, voice prints, DNA sequence, facial characteristics, and handwriting. I have it right here. All this information can be found on childabuseintheclassroom.com. And I would like to know, what are you going to do to stop charters? Because Steve Scalise on May 9th, 2016, he wants, there was almost $2 million grant awarded to Louisiana charter schools to expand high-quality charter schools across the nation. He also said that it's a national model for public education reform. So if you have charter schools, what's going to happen to the public schools? And what's going to happen to our representation? If charter schools take over, we have no say in our education. Okay? I've been researching this since 2013. I have lots more information here I could share with you. So I guess I don't want to go into any further, but what is your response?
The first topic, I gotta be honest, I don't know much about it, and I would have to go back and,
He gave me some of the information in Mayville, and I gave it to staff, and they were gonna reach out to DPI about it, but it seems like everything that you gave me when we read through it was a federal act,
Right.
and so I don't know that we have any ability to, we certainly have an ability to change it, but I'm not sure how much flexibility we have on how we operate within it. That's why we were asking DPI, like, how do we follow these standards? How does it work in Wisconsin? Trying to understand, because it was an act I never heard of before until you brought it up in Mayville
Okay.
like 3 weeks ago or so.
Yeah, but there's such thing as the 10th Amendment, that the federal government has no right into the education that belongs to the people, to the states.
right.
So maybe you could do your job and, stop that.
Yeah, I
Stop-
mean, it sounds like a good example of something I definitely would reach out to, probably Congressman Sensenbrenner or Grothman or Hokan and just kind of figure out what they know about it as well.
I believe they voted for the Every Student Succeeds Act, all three of them.
Oh, they did?
Oh,
Yes,
that's
they
part of
did.
it, Okay.
Okay, well,
believe
that would
all
be
of
the
them
first
did.
place, yeah, then we would probably start that conversation with them and see what their opinion
because-
is, or
yeah,
why
because-
they did vote for it.
Yeah, because
you know?
that's basically a mental health law.
Yeah,
It is.
okay.
Okay,
On charter, I mean, the charter sponsorships have ranged anywhere from, local public schools that feel they wanted to establish a charter school, and we've gone along with that probably over the last 20 years or so. And then you've got charters that are established independently by either by a coordinated effort amongst universities. Some have created them on their own, and the focus has always been to try and create an environment where at-risk students who are not performing in the regular classroom for a number of different reasons. Some would be behavioral, some is related to academics, but the idea is if the district sees a student that looks like all of a sudden they're dropping off, they're not gaining enough credits, that they find themselves in a situation where they're falling behind, that they can establish a relationship with the charter school and hopefully, get that kid kind of across the finish line and graduate from school. So, there's a lot of support for that concept, but I don't, kind of the description that the charter school is going to move and somehow replace or take such a high percentage of students away from the regular mainstream population in a district.
we have lots of kids exiting the schools.
Yeah.
They're going somewhere else because of what is being taught. And I remember him saying something about Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood has curriculum in the schools. It's called the National Sexuality Standards. You can Google that and look that up. They're starting in kindergarten with that. Planned
Well,
Parenthood
curriculum's
has,
a whole different topic, if you want to talk about curriculum, we could be here till the cows come home.
right, but
because-
they are inserting
Yeah,
their information into K to 12.
okay. But I appreciate your comment because I know that there is some controversy always in and around, obviously, charter schools, and it is something that I think the Republican legislature has watched closely over the last 8 years. As we've made changes, just about every budget, I think there's some changes or modifications to the charter statutes, so.
Okay, I have
Okay.
one more thing.
Yes.
Okay, on page 63 on the Every Student Succeeds Act, the at-risk children who are not meeting the challenging state academic standards may have to go through counseling, school-based mental health programs. That's what it says right here.
Yeah, I mean, that is part of why some of the kids end up in the charter school is because they've just not been able to, I don't know how else to describe it, conform to the regular school setting. So they need something that's kind of a little bit wider open. And the other thing I know in Beaver Dam Charter's been doing this for years is they build relationships with employers in and around the district so that, maybe the student is in the classroom from, 8 in the morning until 1 o'clock, and then after that, they leave the school setting and go to like a local manufacturer, and they work there in the afternoons. They feel that builds kind of this relationship that they need, and there's somebody else that they're working with, makes them feel productive, so that they don't drop out. That's the ultimate goal, is to make sure they don't drop out of high school.
Yeah, but I've never heard of anybody that's not meeting the standards in school having to go through mental health programs. I've never seen that when I was growing up. I mean, that's insane.
They have some emotional and developmental issues.
Yeah, because the
with
schools
these
are causing
kids.
the problems.
Well,
It's a school.
You could,
Believe me, it's a school.
okay, you could debate that, I suppose.
Yes, I could.
But, very good, okay, thank you. Thank you very much for coming. Don Niemeyer.
Right here, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your participation in this meeting, and I'm very grateful that you're asking questions. Now, I've got several things. I'll try to be brief on all of them for you, and if you want to discuss them a little later after the meeting, we'll get together after the meeting.
Sure, it's fine.
Okay, now,
Yep.
first of all, most of my information comes from your OAN news channel on TV. So if it's a biased situation, then I'm biased.
Okay?
Okay, so I believe in my own personal belief that the DACA program has got to